I'm Adam Housley, and this is Bias Bash. Republicans are blasting Democrats for standing in the way of President Trump's agenda, from blocking nominees to holding protests and also elevating Elizabeth Warren. Many in the media are making comparisons to the Tea Party and are doing what they can to encourage the unfolding drama. But are they missing some of the key lessons learned by the Tea Party by making this comparison? Here with his reaction is senior Washington correspondent of Talk Media News, Justin Duckham. Justin, I appreciate you coming in.
Hey, great to be here.
You know, when we think about the Tea Party, obviously on the conservative side of things, and some of the outrage they had, back at the first part of the Obama administration, they eventually kind of dwindled in a lot of ways. You don't hear them as much, and obviously the media at times really kind of knock them back to the point now where they're not nearly as powerful as they once were. Are we going to see the same type of thing? Are Democrats making the same type of mistake on the left side?
Well, you know, we did see the Tea Party dwindle, but they ultimately had some very major consequences for the rest of the party, and that is what I think is not being paid attention to right now. The Tea Party movement was not a cakewalk for the establishment, for the Republican Party. In a way, it was kind of a bloodbath. We saw primaries taking out some diehard conservatives who have been in the Senate for quite some time, in the form of Lugar in Indiana, Bennett in Utah. We saw some primaries go to some less than satisfying candidates who ended up giving away easy state races. Ultimately, we saw John Boehner cast out of the party, and then we saw Trump rise based on that kind of populist furor that they initially kicked off. So I think the Democratic Party right now is facing a lot of the same obstacles, and nobody in the media is really talking about that. I think the history of the Tea Party is frankly just kind of being misrepresented and a little bit whitewashed.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I guess when you look at the situation, splintering off is what's really happening. And you've seen this in past years, too. I mean, this is not something that's new. It's happened to Democrats in the 80s. Republicans, it's happened to them as well. We saw that, obviously during the Clinton administration, some splintering as well on the Republican side of things. But when you take a look at it right now, obviously the Democrats are having an issue because you have the more progressives led by Elizabeth Warren. You have the more moderates. And even though they're right now standing together and opposing Donald Trump, you can see some of the cracks within their own party.
Oh, absolutely, and we already saw that back in 2016. Nobody really expected Bernie Sanders to stay in the race as long as he did, nor did they really expect him to kind of kick off a lot of the grassroots activism that surrounded his campaign. And right now we're seeing this, building schism going on between those who the, Democratic base are deeming not worthy of support. Joe Manchin right now is public enemy #1 for a lot of the more kind of progressive base right now. We're seeing protests take to the street, and just a lot of dissatisfaction with the fact that the Democratic Party has not put forward any fresh faces or any fresh blood for quite some time. So we see the establishment trying to kind of cozy up to that, trying to sort of embrace that, but ultimately they are doing so at their own peril.
Right. All right, Justin Duckham, senior Washington correspondent for Talk Media News. Appreciate you coming in. For more media analysts on this week's top headlines, you can always tune in to Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern, and again at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel. Again, Howie Kurtz, you can see him there Sundays twice. Good times here, 8 a.m., of course, on the Pacific Coast, and 2 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. Got to throw those times in there as well. Meantime, I'm Adam Housley, and you're watching Bias Bash.